So it's our last session on the atmospheric landscapes thing, or my last session of demonstrating it, but if you want to carry on, obviously, please do that. Next month is a 3-week month. I'm going to have a break for about a month from, so that will be our last session, the 17th of July. So we'll be 3 weeks in July. Then we'll have a break for about a month and back on the 21st of August. Okay, so that's the date. Also, just mentioned that Lee Art Trail's coming up. So that is, I've got some maps here if you want any maps, but there'll be plenty around during the trail. That's Saturday the 5th of July. So we've got I think just over a week, and then that'll be up. As part of the art trail, and as part of South End Pen Art, we're doing an outdoor session, drawing, painting, whatever you fancy doing, on Sunday the 6th of July, and that will be meeting by the Crooked Bill at 11 o'clock. So if anybody wants to join us and do a bit of sketching with us or a bit of painting, very welcome to come along. That's a free session. So that's all the announcements. I'll put this back in a minute. So this particular photo, I've been using this as a demo for a few different sessions, and I may have done some of this in past sessions. So this one was the watercolour version with a little bit of pastel. And then these two versions, this one is water mixable oils, and this one is acrylics. I find the oils a lot easier to work with, but some people like acrylics, so I thought I'd do a little bit of acrylics demo. So I'll just move that out of the way. If you're using acrylics, sometimes what I find difficult with acrylics is getting softer edges, and the fact that the paint dries very quickly. Now you could add acrylic retarder to it, which sometimes I've done that. So that's one way of working. Another way I tend to sometimes work is to use an acrylic medium. This is just like a matte medium. So I've got some of this. If anybody wants to have a go at this is just like Jackson's, I think it's called Fluid Matte Medium. So, but there are various different ones you can get. So I'll do a little bit down here. I've basically just sort of sketched in using thin paint. I quite like to just paint the medium on, and then it's a bit like working into a wet surface. And I tend to do exactly the same with oil sometimes. If I've got a painting that I haven't worked on for a little while, and actually I'll show you this one I worked on yesterday, I'll just show you this. This one actually started as a winter painting, and I completely changed. It was a nice sunny day, so I completely changed it. But what I did start with is I just put a thin layer of medium over that, and just sort of rubbed it back a little bit so it wasn't too wet, but it's just like working into a wet surface then. Otherwise you get a very dry brush mark, which I don't always want that. I quite like paintwork to look blended. So either you can mix the medium in with the paint itself, or just paint a little bit on to start. Sorry, I forgot to get any water. Let's just get some water. So this is going to dry out. Right, and then I've got some acrylics on here. And what I would do with this is just try and paint a background colour of these sort of lighter tones first, and maybe these greys and the little bits of yellow, and then all these sort of bits of mud and rock I would paint over the top. So it's trying to sort of build it up in layers and see what I think of as the furthest away layer, or the layer that I could put the other marks over the top. So just using a little bit of acrylic, I've got some various colours here, yellow and brown, a little bit of white. So I'm trying to get a kind of off, slightly yellowish feel to that. Perhaps a little bit lighter, a little bit lighter. And this is already feels more pleasant to work into. I can soften out brush work. So that can be some of the yellows in there. Another idea with this is to use sort of glazes. So you've got one layer down, let that dry, and then put another sort of thin layer using medium that's thinned down so that some of the colours shine through. And I quite like the look of that sometimes with acrylics. So just adding a little bit of blue to this to get a kind of browny colour and a little bit of red.
Does the medium stay damp for a little while?
Yeah, it does, and I find it slows down the drying of the paint as well. So you can use the retarder, but it will actually slow it down a little bit. So it should, yeah, I mean that's, you know, that is still blending in. I mean, even though we've got quite a warm day, I can blend that. So that's more, you know, satisfactory for me. And then around here, it wants to go a bit darker. For me, the acrylic paint isn't such strong pigment anyway, so it's going to come out a little bit more transparent. I want it actually a little bit yellower there as well. Let's go back to the yellowy colour. So just get a little bit of that mixed in.
Sorry.
It's alright, that's alright. I'll take your phone, is it? Let's just go a little bit darker there. Probably would let that dry. What you have to be a little bit careful of with acrylics is sometimes you can, if you work into it while it's wet, sometimes you end up just picking the paint off. So I would do something like that, perhaps go a little bit darker on the edges here. Let's just do that now. Perhaps a tiny bit of medium. You can mix the medium in with the paint as well. And it will, I mean, you can thin acrylics with water, I'm sure you know that. But this will help to keep the strength of the paint, and it's got a slightly different feel to it than just thinning it with water. So I can bring some sort of darks in here. I think actually while I'm on this little bit, I might just try and get some of that light coming through too, just to see how long that stays wet. So French brushes, just a different brush, and a little bit of white with the tiniest bit of yellow, but not too much. Perhaps a little bit of yellow ochre. That's sort of working. So it's a little bit more like working into a wet oil paint. The other thing is I can remove a little bit, so if I want. So I want to just take a little bit out of the rag, just take a bit out there, and then paint onto a slightly drier surface. Yeah, pop that down. The other thing you can do to get softer edges is use one of these fan brushes, and that's really what I think they're intended for, is just softening out edges a little bit like that. So just using that on the edge. So that helps to get a softer edge, which, you know, if you want to try and paint atmospheric landscapes, you might want some sharp edges, but having some softer edges will certainly create a stronger atmosphere. So that's the kind of acrylic version. The oil version is, in a way, easier because I don't need to add the mediums so much. So I could do, shall I do a little tiny bit of oils? Yeah. So I just swap over, hopefully I've got enough colours out here. I bought these ones from Sea White, so I'm just going to try these out and see what these are like. Okay, so again, I'll do the same sort of thing down the bottom here, but because the paint's, let's get a bit more paint out. It's been out a little bit too long, it's drying up on the palette. Yeah, I'll just do a little bit of the yellows. So you've got some yellowy, and for me this has got a slightly stronger consistency. It feels, the paint feels a bit more creamy, a bit more buttery. So I could get the yellows in here. I think it's got better covering power than the acrylics. Go like that, and then I would just add the whites in again. Just mix a tiny little bit of yellow in with that, one bit. So just get that in line with the sun. Could do the darks first. Might be an idea to get all the background colour and then all the greys and then the darks and the lights. But that's the water mixable oils version, which I find easier for the blending. It's much more creamy. Any questions? Or?
Yeah, with the acrylics, the medium, how long does that stay wet? I mean, is it overnight or a couple
Oh
of
no, it wouldn't be that long. It'd be, I don't know, maybe 10-15 minutes, something like that. Yeah, it's not. It's not long. It's not that long. No, it's not like using oils.
Slightly longer than acrylic.
Yeah, slightly longer than if you just put it on without. Really. Yeah, difficult to say to be honest, but it would dry probably by the end of the session. Yeah. Whereas the oils that will stay wet for quite a long time. If I paint the oils on very, very thin, just like watery paint, just like what I did here was I just sketched in with thin brown paint, just thinned with water. So it's sort of like just to sort of sketch out. And that will dry pretty quick because there's hardly any paint there, and it's just evaporating really. The moisture's evaporating. So that's quite a good way of doing your underpainting. But the actual oils themselves. These were Tuesday. That's not too bad, but that's not to dry. So that's a couple of days. That's more than neatly dry. Right, okay, I'll let you crack on.